Alright, for today's critical thought, we're returning to the topic of quality of life features in a video game, and more specifically, how to spot areas that you can improve on your game and, in essence, improve the playability of your title. Now, if you missed our last talk about it, quality of life features are elements that make your game easier to be played without directly adding content or brand new systems to it. Now, as we said last time, we just got really bright there. As we said last time, quality of life features are examples of accessibility, but not every accessibility option is an example of a quality of life feature. And simply, it just means that elements like colorblind mode, subtitles, and even controller remapping are very important, but not everybody uses them. While a quality of life feature, anyone who plays your game can directly benefit from it. Now, quality of life elements can range dramatically from genre to genre, game to game, platform to platform, you name it. But despite how wide of a line it is, there are several key areas that are universal that any developer can spot when it comes to trying to figure out where their game can be improved upon. Now, the first big part about this is understanding what your core gameplay loop is. And for those of you who don't know that definition, the core gameplay loop is your main gameplay system. This is what the person's going to be interacting with your game for the majority of the experience. Be it platforming, shooting, puzzle solving, baking cakes, you name it. And the first big area that you can spot quality of life issues or where you can implement them is with any element, mechanic, or system that gets in the way of your core gameplay loop, meaning that the player is being taken out of it. And there are many different things that can do this. It could be as simple as having to go into a secondary or even a third screen to find out information, equip items, elements that the player has to repeat constantly that takes them away from it, such as having to go to a secondary screen to, let's say, use a healing potion or stuff like that. This would even be elements like, instead of being able to just go directly from one level to another, the player is forced to do unnecessary backtracking or anything that the player has to repeat, like busy work. For those of you who are fans of Game Wisdom, you know we've used the term dead time in the past to describe that, wherein it's an activity the player must perform, but it's repeated so many times that it just adds up. Such as, again, having to do inventory sorting, having to return to a hub, having to even just constantly go into their inventory to repair an item or shop or anything like that. And the point is that dead time can usually be a few seconds or even milliseconds if the player is out of that core gameplay loop, but it adds up over the course of an entire play. Now, with dead time, that is another big area that you can spot quality of life issues from. If the player has to constantly do something and it just serves no other purpose than just getting them back to the core gameplay loop, then figure out a way to automate or reduce it. And that's a very big area of quality of life. Being able to reduce repetitive actions. If the player has done something one time before, don't make them do it 15, 20, or 100 times over a playthrough. Make it a hotkey. Make it something that, let's say, the game could automate. This is one of those big areas that we see in a lot of strategy or management style games, where in order to perform a task, I need to go to a menu, click on an option, maybe drag something into it, and I repeat that again and again and again. And for those of you who missed the thumbnail art for this video, that is from the game Cultist Simulator, which while I enjoy it, it features a lot of those repetitive tasks. In order to use the work command in that game, I have to repeat the same dragging and dropping of cards, the same exact cards, every single time I perform that action. And you're going to be performing that action probably over 200 to 300 times, maybe even more than that, over the course of a single playthrough. Now, another thing that can help you spot quality of life issues is anything, there are also simple things on your screen or UI. Any relevant information that corresponds to directly playing your game should be as easy to spot as possible. And this is the other end of the spectrum when it comes to quality of life features. We were talking about things like symbols, UI design, whether you're using the right colors to properly display information. So, for instance, if red means health, then I want every potion that restores health to probably be that color. I don't, basically, again, if the player has to look up or dig to find useful or vital information, that's another good area to try to improve your quality of life information. In Diablo 3, for instance, one of the things that they did to improve playability was introduce the power, defense, and health stat or health ratings on all gear, so you can see at a moment's glance what something's going to do to you and whether it will improve or hurt your abilities. And like I said a minute ago, if I have to dig 2 to 3 screens down to find out something that is vital to what's happening right now, just take that information and put it on the front page or your main screen UI. Again, the heart of quality of life features is to make your game play as smoothly and as easily as possible. And because of that, one of the most important topics when we discuss quality of life features is playtesting. Like we've said before, I have become a very big stickler for quality of life features and areas where games can be improved. And the reason is that this is the kind of stuff that playtesting is built for. Because somebody brand new to your game is going to have that first-timer's experience and be able to see where they're getting confused at. Is something not being properly understood? And they'll be able to tell you that a lot easier compared to someone who has gotten used to all the quirks and unique elements of your game after 20 plus hours of play. And because of that, this is why I'm very punishing, or I mark games heavily down for having quality of life features. Because this is not something that gets spotted 5 to 10 hours in. It gets spotted within the first few minutes of play. And this is why playtesting is so important to improving your title. Because a first timer is going to be able to get stuck at those spots. And more importantly, if you see someone struggling with your game, or if a lot of people who are playtesting your title are spending a lot of time on a single task or repeating something, this is a clue to you that you should try to mitigate that in some way, shape, or form. Like we said at the start of this video, every game genre and design is different when it comes to quality of life features. But being able to spot areas that cause dead time, that take the player out of the core gameplay loop, or something that is just plain frustrating the player, these are big spots to improve your quality of life. Now, with that said, to begin to wrap things up for today, there is one important point. Like I said at the start, every quality of life feature can also be considered an accessibility option. And because of that, you can almost never run out of quality of life features you can add to your game. Be it something as simple as changing the symbols on your game to make them easier to read, to something as complex as having auto sort or automated features for specific mechanics or systems. And it's important to prioritize these features because, again, this can be never ending. But as we've said over the course of this video, the simplest way to spot where you should improve quality of life always corresponds to your core gameplay loop. If the player is being taken out of it, being distracted, or something is just getting in the way of focusing on the main task at hand, figure out ways to improve or get rid of it. Because if a system's only purpose is to frustrate or just be a time waster, then that is not a good system to have in your game. And ultimately, quality of life and playability will reduce the amount of time someone needs to play your game. But that is a net positive because this is time that is being wasted. And it's better to have the player love 10 hours of your game than just find 20 hours of it to be just okay. And at worst, quality of life features can be the death by 1,000 cuts that can ruin a game, no matter how great the game is or the gameplay is. Because if someone is feeling frustrated or getting annoyed at your game within the first 10 minutes of playing, then it doesn't matter what else is going on with your title, chances are they're not going to stick around. And as a very quick semi-tangent, quality of life features can also extend to multiplayer in the form of quick match, being able to mute or block people, anti-cheat, voting, and there are probably a lot of other elements that are unique to multiplayer-based games, which for any developers watching who want to name a few, feel free to leave them down below. But with that said, to wrap up today's critical thought, we have two questions. For the folks watching this right now, can you think of a game that was absolutely ruined because of quality of life features or a lack of playability, no matter how great the basic gameplay was? And can you think of a game that did something unique with a quality of life feature or system that made it stand out or stood out from other games of that genre that you played? Let me know in the comments below, but thank you so much for watching today's Critical Thought. Be sure to check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And if you'd like to talk game design with me on a daily basis, check out our Discord channel, link below. But until next time, have a great night. Before we get to the credits, just a quick shout out to the supporters over on patreon.com/GWBycer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/GWBycer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.